Good morning. Today we are back at Manchester Airport. As you can see from behind me, that's the tower over there. And what we'll be doing today will be going on the other side. That's where the runway park is. And today we'll be doing a special tour. We'll be going on the Concorde. Recording is not allowed, so what I'll do is I'll just do my best to get a few pictures and maybe just a little bit of recording with the tour guide as he explains, gives us some informative information about the Concorde. So today's it's a rainy day, but it's not heavily raining. It's bearable. So come with me as we explore. So in the meantime, what I'll do is I'll just do a few recordings of the planes landing and taking off. Then we'll make our way to the runway park. I was hoping to get to the start of the runway, but it's a long way. That's the tower over there. Let's see if we can zoom in to the tower. Few people there. You can see two there, and that's the radar. And that's the runway park in a minute. That's a private lounge, and that's the runway park. And we've got a private jet that's just landed. Let's sit back. There's a private terminal. That's the private terminal there. So you've got the money, they come and drop you there, then you catch your private jet. Let me just quickly show you how big the runway is. This is where I am. I can't even see the end of it. The weather is not very clear today. There's a jet there that just landed.
with their operation, and they currently operate the fleet blue on aircraft. The only aircraft that are not Boeing are the typically Lauda, and they currently have a fleet of just 26 Airbus A320 aircraft. But they have also the Polish division, Force, which operates 72 Boeing 737s, Malta Air, 176 aircraft, the main Ryanair Irish division, 321 aircraft, of one of our Far Eastern carriers, Hainan Airlines from China. This is an Airbus A330-300 aircraft. It's operating flight HU754 to the Chinese capital, Beijing.
Joe would pretend she didn't like to be seen. Everybody would get on and off Concorde on the same door that we've just got on. If Joan was on board, she'd be the first person you would see, and you'd say, "There's Joe Collins," and Joan would say, "Don't look at me, I don't want to be seen." Why would you sit right at the front? Perhaps you could explain, Joan. why would you want to sit there? A chap called Fred Finn. Anybody ever heard of Fred Finn?
No.
No? Fred's in the Guinness Book of Records as the world's most travelled man. Fred flew on Concorde 718 times. Wow. Fred was an international lawyer, now retired. Fred used to like to sit in seat 9A, which is at the back on this side. If you ever meet Fred, he'll explain to you at length about all the people he's ever sat next to, Johnny Cash and Paul McCartney and Dolly Parton, all kinds of people. He'll tell you about the day John Denver got his guitar out and played tunes to everybody as they were bobbing along. I don't know about you, I can't think of anything worse than spending 3 hours with John Denver and his guitar. Once he's done Annie's song, as far as I'm concerned, you can just forget it there. Yeah. But anyway. But I asked Fred, said, "Fred, why'd you like to sit in seat 9A? What was special about seat 9A? And fair play to Fred, Fred had worked out that's where the drink was, in that middle galley. So Fred always got his drinks first. Having said that, because Fred was on board Concorde quite a lot, 718 times, everybody knew him. And if he was on the passenger list, he'd always have a bottle of champagne, nice bottle of red wine on his seat waiting for him. When he would drink that in a 3-hour flight, having met Fred, yes, probably give it a good go. But yeah, lovely chap. We do all kinds of things on Concorde. And Fred was in a couple of months ago. We had an Italian fashion magazine, did a shoot, and Fred came on to do an interview with them to fill in around the pictures and all that kind of thing. So he's still very active in sort of Concorde. A lot of people think that Concorde stopped flying because of what happened in Paris in the year 2000. So those pictures of the crash in Paris. Do you know all about the crash? Yeah. Can we have a little chat about it? Are you okay with it? He probably knows more about it than most people anyway. Children seem to. Yeah. Children and very old people love crashes and stuff like that. So it was quickly proven that it wasn't Concorde's fault. There was about 8 or 9 things all came together at that one time, as is often the way with aircraft incidents, that caused that crash. It wasn't Concorde's fault. Quickly proven it wasn't Concorde's fault, but they had to make some modifications. Those modifications were around strengthening the rear tyres. They had to strengthen the wiring in the wheel bay, the hydraulic system in the rear wheel bay, and they also had to protect the fuel tanks. The way they did that, they lined the fuel tanks with Kevlar. It's very strong material, and they put Kevlar around the wiring and stuff like that in there just to protect it. But that added weight to the aircraft. Now, aircraft are designed to fly within certain parameters. You've got your dry weight of your aircraft, the weight of the fuel, the weight of the luggage, and the weight of the passengers. If you change one of those weights, you have to get it back somehow. So the first thing they thought about is, well, we'll take less fuel. Because Concorde takeoff weight about 198 tons. Half of that was fuel. Very, very thirsty aircraft. But it only had enough fuel to get to Barbados, to New York, to Washington. There wasn't any spare fuel. Used more than twice as much fuel as aircraft use today for those routes. So if you take less fuel, if you can't get there, there's no point. So scrap that. Next thought, we'll take less passengers. Less passengers is less revenue. So no, we're not going to do that either. So what they came up with was a redesign of the interior. So these seats that you're in today are second generation Concorde seats, designed in 2000 by a chap called Terence Conran, as a result of that Air France incident. Made out of aluminium, carbon fibre, and the leather on them is Connolly leather, the same that's in Rolls-Royce cars, but much lighter than the seats that were in there before. That enabled them to have the weight. Each one of those seats cost £7,000 in 2000, quite a lot. But much lighter, that got the weight back, so they were able to continue to Concorde to fly. We get to 2003. Now, in the same way that your car has an MOT, aircraft have an airworthiness certificate. The airworthiness certificate has to be checked every so many flying hours. Each type of aircraft has a different number of hours because they're all different. Concorde was 12,500 flying hours. In 2003, the company that, because of various mergers throughout the years, was Airbus, the second largest aircraft manufacturer in the world. Airbus owned the airworthiness certificate for Concorde. They wrote to British Airways and Air France in 2003, said, right, your Concorde aircraft are coming up for their 25,000 hour check, but we've got three problems. The first thing is, because aircraft today are flying 16, 17 hours a day, they're always in the air, because that's how airlines make money. Concorde would fly maybe 3 or 6 hours a day, and not every day. It's taking you a long time to get to 25,000 hours. Because of that, we've lost a lot of the expertise that we had around maintenance, design, engineering, all that kind of thing. Also, because Concorde designed in the early 60s, there's no computers on board that you can plug it into that will tell you if anything's going wrong. You have to strip the whole thing down to bare metal. That would have taken about 5 months per aircraft. We haven't got the hangar space. And also, by that time, there was only 12 operational Concordes. We only made 20 in total. The first 6 of those were prototypes and development aircraft. 14 had entered service, 7 with Air France, 7 with British Airways. Air France crashed one, like we say, in 2000. Air France also broke one up for spare parts. So we're down to 12 operational aircraft. Spare parts for such a small number of such a specialised aircraft, it's just not cost effective for us to keep going. So unless British Airways and Air France, you're going to give us, and the figure they asked for was £100 million in 2003, to keep the environment open, we're going to have to withdraw the airworthiness certificate. By that time, the French weren't quite as enamoured with Concorde as the British, and only about a fifth of their seats, or Concorde seats, were full. British Airways were just about breaking even, they weren't making a profit, but they were quite happy to have it in because of the prestige it brought to the fleet. But British Airways didn't have 100 million spare capital to go it alone and spend on basically 7 of their aircraft. So the 3 of them decided in 2003 that Concorde would have to stop flying. Air France stopped flying theirs more or less straight away. British Airways continued to fly them for as long as they possibly could, about another 5 months. That last 5 months was probably the most profitable time in Concorde's history, because people had been saving up all their life to fly on Concorde. They suddenly had a finite amount of time to do it. When British Airways also put out a press release saying, right, Concorde's finishing in October 2003, we've got 7 Concorde aircraft, who wants one? So weird and wonderful suggestions going in. A gentleman at Manchester Airport called Peter Hampson, who was the airport operations manager at the time, him and his team put together a proposal on what we would do with one if we had one here. Sent it off, didn't hear anything. A couple of months later, got a phone call. Congratulations, Peter. Your proposal was successful. In fact, yours was the best proposal. Because of that, you get first pick. You can choose which of our 7 Concorde you want. So Peter obviously chose this one, Alpha Charlie, flagship of the fleet. Came to us on the 31st of October 2003. She landed out on the airfield. We pushed her back to where she is today. Then over a couple of years she was out in the open, and we built the hangar around her, and that keeps her in the condition that she's in now. So we continue to do tours, have events that you two were at the other night, and keep Concorde's memory alive. I particularly like doing tours for young people, where I can explain that back in our day we could get to New York in 3 hours, whereas now it takes you 7 hours.